morning and welcome. You're on to Aspheric TV and this is the morning newspaper briefing. My name is Double Gifts. This is the program where we bring you front pages of Nigerian dailies, and we have a few here. I'd start off with the Punch newspaper. The major headline here says UK peace meetings. Atiku 6 weeks support. Obasanjo pushes Obi's agenda. Rivers governor tables demands, wants Atiku's commitment in writing ahead of agreement. Wike's men favor alliance with Tinubu, say Obi lacks strong structure. APC presidential aspirants will meet over Tinubu Shetima ticket. Fayose can't remain Ekiti, PDP's sole commander, state publicity secretary. That's from the Punch newspaper. The Nation newspaper has it that Osinbajo, Lawan, Amaechi, 19 others to unite for Tinubu. Ex-APC presidential aspirants to meet in Abuja next week. 2023, Atiku Obi hold talks with Wike in London. Obasanjo seeks support for LP candidate. UN urges Nigeria to raise education votes by 13%. The Daily Trust newspaper, it says here 2023, be responsible, puts Nigeria first, Jonathan tells politicians. Urges citizens to vote right leaders. Sambo wants issue-based campaigns. Leaders have a lot to learn from IBB, Oshomole, Akilu. Terrorist camps uncovered in Abuja suburbs. That's also on the Daily Trust newspaper. Police seal NMPP office in Maiduguri, detain senatorial candidates. Intrigues as Obasanjo meets Wike Obi in London. The next paper is the Leadership paper, and it says here, Europe new political playground as governors weigh fresh options. Wike, Otom, Makinde, Piazzu, Fintiri, Pali, Obasanjo, Obi, Atiku, others in UK. Ex-VP cautions PDP, BOT members over unguided utterances. Jonathan Sambo stress unity, issues-based campaign. UN urges increase of Nigeria's education budget to 20%. The Vanguard newspaper, it has it here that 2023 Obasanjo, Obi, Wike, Duke, others meet in London. Also, military kills Sambisa Forest ISWAP commander Uzaifa, 37 others. The Guardian newspaper says Wike's UK meeting with Obasanjo, Obi, Atiku heightens 2023 puzzle. PDP confident of amicable reconciliation. Atiku orders Lamido, others to halt verbal warfare over Wike. Strategic meeting to unite Osinbajo, Amaechi, other APC presidential aspirants in the works. The Daily Sun newspaper says suspense increases as Wike Obi meets Obasanjo in London. Rivers governor Atiku also. Wike others won't ditch party, PDP. 2023, Tinubu targets 4 PDP governors, senators, reps, others. Also on the Daily Sun newspaper, ASU rejects parents' 10,000 offer, insisting on continuation of strike. Oba of Benin warns against attempts to divert Benin artifacts. Orosaye report, White Paper Committee submits report, recommends dialogue with NAS. FG must pay striking lecturers, NLC. Also, NDDC, Niger Delta stakeholders warn against move to appoint another sole administrator. FG warns Nigerians against traveling to northern Cyprus. The next paper is the Nigerian Tribune, and it says here Obasanjo, Obi, Wike, Makinde, Otom, others meet in London. Fintiri joins Atiku to meet Wike, others, as ex-VP calls for ceasefire among supporters. Tinubu, Amaechi, Lawan to meet in Abuja. Lastly, we have the This Day newspaper, and it says here NUPRC, Nigeria must declare emergency on oil theft, underproduction, others. Resolving security challenge will bring back investments to oil sector. Also, Wike continues search for relevance, meets Obasanjo, Atiku, Obi in London. Those are the newspaper headlines I have. I'll go on a short break. When I return, I'll introduce my guests and we'll be speaking on some of the stories. Please stay with us. Welcome back. I have my guest with me in the studio, Mr. Mustafa Abdul Malik. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Gift.
I'm going to start off with this, the major headline, basically, concerning the politicians who, basically traveled to London. And then we see them meeting each other. We see many series of meetings, I beg your pardon. And then it's becoming, should I say, confusing, and people are actually anticipating. It's raising the anticipation. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I don't see the meetings as so unusual. It's something that every politician must want to be relevant. We are in a democracy, and for the next, that is in 2023, that is for the next 4 years. The next administration, any politician that whoever calls himself a career politician that is not a player, it means is gradually going into oblivion, and that is what Governor of Rivers State is trying to avoid. You already know that he was one of the presidential aspirants in PDP, and eventually the primary election was held and he was defeated. And since then, again, his name was among those ones that was favored to become the running mate. He was not taken to. So, and since then, he has been holding meeting consultation here and there in respect of 2023 presidential election. It's a common knowledge now that he has been having some running battle with Atiku all along. And since then, I think 2 days ago, it was reported that he met Tinubu in London, and then yesterday, pictures surfaces everywhere that he held a meeting with Obasanjo and Peter Obi and Atiku again. Well, he's a politician, and to me, I see him more like a strategist. He's trying to be relevant in 2023 and beyond. So it's expected. So he's just trying to look at all other options to see where he can play his card to. I think among his lieutenants, they said okay, they have viewed all the options and they have seen quite okay that look that the candidate of Labour Party doesn't have the kind of structure that will give them that kind of it's not there's no hope in falling on the Labour Party, whereby they don't see it as something that will yield something with better result, the kind of result they want. But what about the candidate of APC, Tinubu himself? Well, all these are just permutation that I don't see anything outside it. At the end of the day, election will be held and winner must emerge. Whether we like it or not, they are politicians, and there is time for everything. Whether they like it or not, time will come that they will be swept away from the system.
Let's talk about the PDP crisis that has been lingering for a while.
Yeah.
We heard from the Punch newspaper, we read rather, that a close source actually confirmed that Atiku met with Wike, and then in the course of their meeting, he sought Wike's support. And also, the same source mentioned that he has agreed
to work
with Wike, and then those demands he made. the Atiku has agreed to like accept them and all of that. Do you think this is like some sort of political strategy, or
Yeah, sure.
it just means that the PDP is ready to just do what Wike says and then for peace to reign and all of that?
Sure. The worst that could happen to any aspirant, even the APC that has more than 10 governors, they cannot afford to lose any of their governors now, let alone an opposition like PDP. Remember that Wike is not just a governor, but is a governor with that controls some other governors. And apart from that, again, he has that fund. Rivers State is so rich that Rivers State alone can decide to fund the 2023 election for the PDP. So a situation like that, Atiku would not like to lose Wike. Whether he like it or not, he need Wike. Because by the time he allowed Wike to go, Wike will now become a spoiler for the PDP, and that is what Atiku is trying to avoid. Whatever, I don't know, the details of the condition that Atiku has accepted is not yet out for anyone to know about it. We don't have the details. So, but I believe that whatever it entails, at the end of the day, Atiku will sign it. Because based on the report, it said that Wike said it must be in writing. You know, the first part was Atiku now reneged, Atiku or the PDP now reneged on the agreement. That is, by the time wherever the PDP presidential candidate emerged from, the party chairman must relinquish the list. So it was more or less like a gentleman agreement, but in which is now subject of controversy. But in this case now, what we are hearing now is that Wike want it to be documented, want it written and signed and documented. So we wish them well, but to me, if you ask me, 2023 is a whole lot of gain.
Moving on to the APC, the presidential aspirants, those who did not emerge winners, are actually going to unite and have a meeting concerning that to support Tinubu. I think this is expected because, I mean, it's their party. Some of them are aggrieved, definitely, but then I think it's a good one for the APC that these strong contenders of the party are coming together to support the presidential candidates that emerged from their party. What do you think about this?
Well, since the APC presidential primaries in June, a lot have happened. For instance, we have seen some Asiwaju Bola Tinubu's men cutting Governor Wike of Rivers. And then they knew quite okay that in Rivers, there is APC structure on ground, and the APC structure is under the leadership of Right Honorable Amaechi. But they still went as far as try to like engage Wike, which to me is like an affront on the person of Amaechi. But thank God that now they are now coming to their realization that, look, this is democracy, and in a democracy, you can't let any of your men just out like that. In fact, not even letting them out, but to make them accessible to some other opposition. They wouldn't like to do that. Now, we are hearing this, that APC, they are trying to like come together and form a kind of a unity forum that is between the former aspirants and their candidate. It's long overdue. They should do that. Without doing that, if they are relying that on the being the ruling party and decide to call the bluff of the former aspirant, those former aspirant, you know, it's just like what Governor Wike is doing. If you try to like ignore me, I would seek to be relevant to some other platform, and that is what Wike did. It's just that we have some gentlemen within the talk, for instance, like the caliber of Osinbajo, Senate President Amaechi, and some other men. They are not like those. They are not too crafty like some other politicians that will say, okay, if you are trying to ignore me, I would threat, a kind of threat. They have not seen that from any of them. In fact, they have not made any pronouncement till this very moment. And good that APC is like coming to the realization that they need them. As long as they are going into 2023, they need to form that unity. That unity must be there to go into that 2023 election. They shouldn't be too arrogant to say, okay, we can do without anybody. This is democracy. The particular 2023 is dicey. Recall that when Peter Obi started this movement, people thought that it doesn't have structure, but eventually now we are beginning to see some structures here and there. What is the structure? Structure is the human being. And what is the party? Party is about the human beings too. If you allowed people that credible persons to just move on, you are like exposing yourself to weakness, and that is what APC is trying to avoid this time around.
Well, we've spoken about the APC and then the PDP as well.
Yeah. And
we've seen a lot of these candidates from various parties meet up with former President Obasanjo.
Awesome. Yeah.
And then he's also had a meeting with the Labour Party candidates, and seems he's pushing for Peter Obi.
Yeah, Obasanjo, right from I think even before the I think it was late 2021. He has said that look, that for fairness, power must shift to the southeast. He didn't even say south. He said it must go to southeast, and I believe that he is supporting Peter Obi not because of Peter Obi any other thing. At least based on that statement, then for equity. Because if you look at it very well, since 1999, Obasanjo himself is from southwest. Goodluck Jonathan is from south. Yaradua is from northwest, and Buhari now is from northwest too. So you discover that southeast has not held any sensitive position in terms of that presidency. So he now decided to say, okay, he has been speaking since then that is for power must shift to the southeast, but the permutation based on what the internal politicking within the major political parties, they didn't give or put that into consideration before their primaries, and eventually now we now have what we have now. So ordinarily we should expect him that look, he is going to support the aspiration of Labour Party, and that is exactly what he's doing. So what they said now regarding their meeting yesterday, there was that he is pushing for the aspiration of Peter Obi. And Peter Obi, on his own too, he has met Obasanjo too before. Previously, he has met Obasanjo in Nigeria here. He has seen him. Peter Obi has seen a lot of some other people here and there. And by the time they unveiled, the INEC left that ban on the campaign, we are going to see more of it.
Away from politics, let's move to education.
Yeah.
UN urges increase of Nigeria's education budget to 20%. What are your thoughts on this? Because I think a few other people have been speaking on this for quite some time, and then now the UN has intervened.
Yeah. Well, I think there is this Sustainable Development Goal, SDG, which is year 2030. And it's about education for all. So, but to be able to achieve that sustainable development goal, education is seen as a vehicle for that to achieve that. So, and then in Nigeria here, apart from now, the United Nations recommendation on education on every year budget, 24% of the budget must be allocated to education. But you discover that Nigeria, since 1999, we have been recording less than 15%, even as low as 7%. You discover that we have not been investing in education. And then, although education is the funding of education is on the concurrent list of the constitution, whereby both the state, the local government, the federal government, they have a stake in it. But we have not been able to see that serious investment in it in the public schools, and now you are now seeing that public school is, especially at the primary and the secondary level, is now going down because everywhere now is private schools, and private schools which is not affordable to an average Nigerian. You now discover that we are going down on daily basis, and it's in that context that the United Nations decided to warn Nigeria that look, for you to achieve that sustainable development goal by 2030, you must step up and increase your education budget to at least 20%. There's no going back on that. But as you are seeing now, Nigeria is dealing with the issue of revenue, dwindling revenue, to the extent now that Nigeria is now living on borrowing to be able to fund the budget. We have been having a budget deficit. So, but whether Nigeria would decide to take into consideration the recommendation or the suggestion by the United Nations, we don't know. It means we are going to be affected by, instead of achieving that goal by 2030, we don't see that coming into light.
I think this affects the public universities as well, because we can see how ASU has been on strike, and then yesterday or so, I think this week, parents actually said, or they suggested donating some money, and then ASU rejected it.
You understand? Well, ASU would definitely reject it, because it's like they are squeezing money from individual parents, whereas it's the government's responsibility to fund education. You understand? That's what it means. And see, if we decide to go into discussion on the education, it's very wide in the sense that we'll touch a lot of issues that in the next 2-3 hours we'll still be discussing on it. What the federal government is now saying, that look, funding of education is capital intensive, that they wouldn't want to continue to fund that education, and they made a recommendation that look, they will privatize education, meaning that all the federal universities should be privatized. You understand? So by the time they do that, it means a situation whereby a student is like a student that is doing a science course, whereby is paying almost 200,000 now. It means they are going to pay as high as 1 million plus. Who is that parent that can easily afford that? That is the situation. And the federal government is now saying that look, we continue to fund federal universities, and students are paying tuition fees, they are paying school fees, but you don't remit any money to the federal account from what the students are paying, and we still pay the salaries of lecturers. So how is that possible? So that is the situation. It's another area entirely that is the cause of problem between ASU and the federal government. So we are facing serious challenges in this regard, but I believe that we need education reform.
Eventually, we hope that that will be taken care of. Those are the stories we'll be covering this morning. Thanks for joining us. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are Aspheric TV on YouTube, and also follow us on all of our social media platforms. On Instagram and Twitter, we are Aspheric News, and on Facebook, we are official Aspheric News. Thanks for watching. Bye.